or it would require some sort of diplomatic arrangement in which Iran would receive significant sanctions relief so that it would be able to reconstruct after such a devastating war. And that diplomacy is also something that is very hard to be optimistic about because of the track record of Iran and the Trump administration, the fact that they were bombed twice in the middle of negotiations, and that President Trump also withdrew from a previous nuclear agreement with Iran in 2018. So this is why, if there is no military solution and there is no diplomatic solution easily available, we will end up with a situation that is not going to go back to status quo ante.
If there were some kind of formal control mechanism, non-Oman GCC countries do, because they get, depending on the country, all or most of their energy out through that strait. And Iran has been treating them as allies of their enemy. So, you know, what would Qatar do? Bahrain, UAE, Saudi to a large extent as well, Kuwait, Iraq. What would those, well, Iraq, we maybe have the has said that Iraq can go through the Strait of Hormuz just in the last few hours. But what would those other countries do?
Well, again, this would require a regional negotiation, Oman negotiating on behalf of the rest of the Gulf countries. And maybe it is because of the common interest in reopening the strait to safe passage with or without a toll collection. But this is, at the end of the day, one issue that could bring Iran and the GCC together to negotiate and to define a new modus vivendi. Again, I think it's very easy to look at it as a zero-sum situation, to think that it's unacceptable that Iran would control the strait, and it is. But if Iran and the GCC do this as a joint project, it is their region, it is their come to some sort of a mutually beneficial arrangement, which could then mark the beginnings of a reconciliatory process at the end of this war. That's a much better way of thinking about it than anything that, again, just portrays Iran as the sole policeman of what goes through the strait.
By the way, Ali, I'm just being told now that we're getting information that a Portuguese tanker loaded with Iraqi crude oil, by the way, this is the live tanker tracker map that we're putting up on the screen. So a Portuguese tanker loaded with Iraqi crude oil is now passing or has been allowed through the Strait of Hormuz. I was just flagging in my earlier question that Iran signaled to Iraq that its tankers could go through. So Iran does have this ability to selectively allow, or basically to the left and the right of the strait. You see very few red dots in the strait itself. And that is a live look at the fact that energy is not getting through this, this critical choke point. Ali, one more thing to you. Since Iran is currently under a Trump threat and deadline, which expires a little bit more than 24 hours from now, how seriously are you taking it, and what signals are you watching around the time of that deadline?
Well, I'm taking it very seriously. I'm paying more attention to what President Trump does than what he says, and he has sent a lot of ground forces to the region. And so once the deadline passes, it is quite possible that the U.S. would escalate significantly, which could take two forms: either ground invasion or attack on the critical infrastructure in Iran. And in both of those cases, we will see Iran and its allies also escalating. We might see another choke point, Bab el-Mandab, the entry to the Red Sea, also being blocked. And it is through that choke point that 2/3 of Saudi and Emirati oil is now getting out to the Asian markets. So we would see price of oil going above $250 a barrel. We might see a global economic meltdown. And in case of attack on Iranian energy infrastructure, we might see Iran also torching energy infrastructure in the Gulf states, and that too would be disastrous. So I'm quite worried about the passing of this deadline. But again, as I said, it really does not have a military solution. Iran is not going to capitulate in the face of U.S. threats. The only solution is a diplomatic one, and it could be win-win for all.
could be win-win. I don't hear that very often. It's interesting to hear that. Ali Vaez of the International Crisis Group, thank you very much for joining us on our